Hi students, I'm Una.
And I'm Scott.
I'm a UK OET teacher.
I'm also an OET teacher from the UK.
We've been teaching students to pass their exams for many years.
And now we're excited to help you pass your exams too.
This is the Swoosh English OET Podcast.
Let's get started.
Are you struggling with your OET exam preparation?
Are you unsure how to reach your target score of a grade A or B? Let Swoosh English help you get there.
Go to www.swooshenglish.com or click the link in the description for your free OET complete guide to writing.
Everything you need to know to pass your OET writing step by step. Go to www.swooshenglish.com or click on the link in the description below.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Swoosh English Podcast, here with myself, Una.
And myself, Scott.
Okay, and today we are going to look at the listening section of the OET exam. So today we're going to focus specifically on Part A.
But we will go through some information which is useful and relevant to all three parts of the listening examination
Of
too.
course, it's very important to give just an overview of the listening section in general. You never know, we might have some students listening who are wondering, what is OET about? They're completely new to the exam.
I'm really surprised about how many students actually can be completely new to anything OET related. So we may assume, oh, well, I know about this test already. I'm just looking for some tips. Actually, this is going to be a go-to guide for the format and some tips and tricks method for OET listening part A.
Definitely, yeah, and the listening section in general, like we said. Okay, so shall we get stuck into it then?
So let's get started with the actual format of the
Okay.
OET listening examination. So there are three parts in total, as
Yes.
we mentioned, Part A, Part B, and Part C. You're here for Part A today, but we're going to go through the structure and format and scoring of all three parts. So in total, there are 42 questions
42.
for OET listening, of which Part A, there are 24 marks. Part
Yes.
B, there are 6 marks, and then finally, Part C, there are 12 marks in total.
12 marks. Of course, 12 marks also means 12 questions.
Yeah, so we can actually see then that Part A is worth a significant amount of the overall score for OET. So it is a very important section for you to focus on.
Definitely, yeah. And it's all about getting your specific information, but we'll get into that in more detail, of course. And so the topics are of generic, general interest to everyone. So all candidates, you don't need to worry if you're freaking out that you're of a specific medical profession. Don't worry. These are going to be accessible, available for everyone to understand, no matter what profession you're in.
I can just imagine some people who are not doctors and nurses going, why did I not become a doctor or a nurse? It's so much easier.
Doubting everything like your life decisions.
Like in general, no, but Part A, it is generic for anyone to understand and follow regardless
Part A,
of
Part
your...
B, and Part C.
Yeah, all
The
three
whole
parts.
listening.
You know, obviously
Yeah.
we can't. Obviously, you cannot specify and favorite any part. So
Yeah.
don't worry, you will be able to follow this regardless of what medical profession you are.
Yeah, and Part A as well. It could be any kind of medical. I should say that the actual listening recordings are patient consultations. So health professional patient consultations, and it will be any particular medical professional.
Yes.
We don't know. It could be anything. Okay,
We'll get
so
into a bit more about
won't be
that when we
specific.
actually get into Part
Yeah,
A specifically. So how long is the test overall, Una?
It's 40 minutes long, the listening section. Yeah. So that means that you will have to listen as you are going along. Okay, so obviously listen and write the answers in as you're going along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, precisely. So as we mentioned before, skills assessed in the listening section in general are identifying specific information, talking about your gist, you're talking about your detail or your opinion or your speaker's purpose. Now this isn't Part A. Part A will get into exactly what you
This
have
is in
to
general.
do.
The
what you
skills
do
that are
overall.
assessed all
Yeah,
over the listening section.
Very, very soon.
And the kind of questions you get will be gap fill. Of course, that's specific to Part A. And then Part B and C are going to be multiple choice questions.
choice questions,
So you
okay.
guys have lots of practice with multiple choice questions. You know, as you're going through your English learning process, you always come across these kind of gap fill multiple choice questions. So at least, you know, you're not having to familiarize yourself with a whole different kind of question or exam format. It is pretty, you know, standard across exams.
Like the IELTS test, for example, which there's a variety of different questions to do, and it can be quite confusing. Now, regarding accents for this, there's going to be a variety of accents. If you listen to American English and British English, sorry, there may be a few curveballs. You might hear some African accents, or dare I say, Irish accents involved as
But
well.
you'll be well used to Irish accents at this point if you listen to our podcast, right?
Yeah, that's it. You know, consider this to be OET training overall, listening specifically to Irish accents.
Of course, listening to anything is good practice,
Do we
right, Scott?
normally sound like this?
We're probably changing our accents a little bit, aren't we? Just to make sure you guys can understand.
A little slower.
If we're speaking to each other after, you might have been totally confused.
All right. Now, I'm sure you're also here to attain a B grade overall, as well as most people need to do in order to pass OET. So if you're going to equate that 350 score on the OET scoring scale for listening, that would equate to 30 out of 42 for all of listening overall. So you're looking for roughly 2/3 of all the answers correct.
Are you going to start doing your mathematical equations there?
No, not
Please
this
don't.
time, no. But roughly 2/3. Obviously, you should be aiming for all correct, but in order to pass, you're looking to get about 2/3 approximately correct out of it overall.
Great. Okay, so 30 out of 42.
Yes. So that's the overview. Let's get stuck now into what we can talk about part A specifically. Unless you have something else you want to say.
Well, we were just going to give an overview of what you need to do in part A, part B, and part C as well. So part A, of course, is our patient consultations.
Yep.
Okay, so you're going to hear a medical professional and a patient having a conversation about someone's symptoms, what they were prescribed at an earlier stage.
How they're feeling, how would they describe their symptoms, what their occupation is, what the treatment and diagnosis can be, and any other useful information, just like a doctor or a nurse or a physiotherapist, for example, would go through with a patient.
Which you guys are, of course, all used to.
A patient or even a client as well.
Yeah, and then on your paper, you're going to have a set of notes, essentially, and there are gaps in these notes, okay, that follow through with the information that's in the consultation. And you basically have to fill in those gaps and put in the specific word that you hear. So, as I say, we'll get into that in a bit more detail.
Yes, we will. And just for note as well, for that section, in terms of the timing, etc., they are 2 5-minute consultations you have to listen to as well.
That's right, yes, thank you, Sally. Yep. 2 5-minute consultations, and you will get 30 seconds beforehand in which you're going to make use of your time, 30 seconds before each recording. You're going to make really good use of your time, and we'll give you lots of tips today as to how you should actually use that time. And so part B then is short workplace extracts.
These are very short, only 1 minute each, which you have 6 to do.
6 of them,
so you'll have one set of multiple choice questions per extract. These are nice and short and snappy overall.
Okay, and you're going to be listening for, the questions are going to be about things like gist, detail, opinion, or purpose of the extract. Yeah. And they're going to be, as we said, workplace things. So like team briefings.
Yeah, handovers.
Handovers. It could also be a patient consultation as well.
It could be, yes.
And that's part B, multiple choice questions. And then part C, again, it's multiple choice questions, but of course the recording is a lot longer. So it's again 5 minutes long for the recording, and you're going to listen to 2 different extracts, and you'll have 6 questions for each one.
6 questions. These are multiple choice as well. And these are presentation extracts, which you might hear a presentation or an interview. on a healthcare topic. In a healthcare topic. Toxic? What? My goodness, my OET speaking would be fantastic today on a range of healthcare topics.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Sorry about that, guys.
So that's just a wee brief overview of part A, part B, and part C. So of course we're going to be doing podcasts in more detail on part B and part C. So let's get stuck into how students should approach part A and give them lots of tips and perhaps like a method they can work through when they are doing this task on the day of their exam.
So the first thing we should talk about today really is what you do at the very beginning of the paper. You've opened your paper. You've been given your instructions about what to do. You've looking at your consultation notes. You're seeing the flow. You're seeing the order. You have 30 seconds to prepare before that consultation recording begins, and therefore beginning your listening part A section. So what, of course, you should do. You should be reading. You should be skimming and scanning, and maybe even making predictions or guesses based on what the answer could be.
That is very important. That is huge for part A. So you're going to use that 30 seconds really, effectively and efficiently, so that you have a good idea of what you're going to be listening out for. So you go through, skim it really quickly, as you said, looking at those gaps and starting to predict what kind of word would go in there. So you're going to be thinking about the parts of the speech.
Parts of speech is essential for listening, especially gap fills. So by parts of speech,
what do we mean?
Parts of speech obviously are the individual words or phrases which make up the English language, or any language for that matter. So obviously parts of speech we should know of in our own English studies are obviously nouns, what they're used for, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, etc., etc. Now, of course, depending on the rules of the sentence and where they might fall within the other words, then we should know about what kind of word would go where, depending on the part of the speech. So therefore, we have an idea about what kind of word we're listening out from in terms of the prefixes and suffixes, and therefore actually focusing our listening. As an example, what about this sentence
here? Give us an example.
If there was a note on the OET examination, Part A listening examination, that said, pain located in blank. what kind of word do you think we're missing?
You're going to be looking for a noun there,
More.
or a part of the body. I could even go, you obviously don't just need to say, okay, noun, but even try to think to yourself in more detail, what
more
exactly
specifically, yeah.
So being located in, you're going to think, okay, it's going to be a part of the body.
Yeah. So we know it's a noun because it follows on from a preposition. But as you say, you need to be more specific about that. It could be pain located in the car. Well, that doesn't make any sense, for example. That's a random noun I just threw out there. Obviously, we're talking about a healthcare context. So a part of the body would be the most logical thing. So think about what part of the body might it be.
Where can pain be felt?
Where can pain...
Where can pain be felt?
Where can pain be felt? It's a great one. But also then there might be other clues which come around the notes as well, which may give an indication about what part of the body is being talked about. Maybe the patient has previously talked about backache, for example, or headache. You think, it might fall on. But there may also be distractors as well, which can make into that. But we'll get into more about that very soon. Indeed.
Are you struggling with your OET exam preparation?
Are you unsure how to reach your target score of a grade A or B? Let Swoosh English help you get there.
Go to www.swooshenglish.com or click the link in the description for your free OET complete guide to writing.
Everything you need to know to pass your OET writing step by step. Go to www.swooshenglish.com or click on the link in the description below.
Be very careful with those distractors. Yeah. So you can also think about, if it is a noun, you're thinking about, okay, is it the name of a condition? Is it the name of a particular medical facility? You're going to be thinking about all these different kind of words. Of course, you only have 30 seconds. So, this is a very brief opportunity for you to just go through and, see what information kind of jumps into your head straight away when you look at that gap.
Obviously, if you're looking at the consultations, well, you should be looking at the topics on the left-hand side. For example, patient name, previous ailments, previous treatment, occupation, diagnosis, treatments as well, so you can formulate the thought and understand the flow of the recording as you hear it.
That's the next point, isn't it? So obviously you've had those 30 seconds, you're asking yourself the questions to predict what kind of word could possibly be missing. And the next thing is to really use the notes as your guide.
Precisely.
Okay? So of course it's going to be the doctor asking, or the nurse, or whatever the medical professional is, asking the questions, and then the patient providing all this information, in answer to those questions. So really use the doctor's voice as a guide. I keep saying doctor's voice. The medical professional, I'll say. The medical professional's voice as a guide as well to structure you through that, the notes. Definitely, it'd be really useful.
Because often the patient will be the one giving the answers which you are going to be answering from. So, so as you say, the questions the doctor might ask, for example, they might ask a question like, what symptoms have you been experiencing? And can you tell me about your occupation? And when did it start? Tell me about your procedure that you've had before. They will work as a guide to indicate about what part's going to be talked about and also the information that might be given
exactly
as well.
And if you hear that question, what occupation what is your occupation or something, and you know that you actually have to fill in their occupation, well, straight away
you'll see the gap.
You're going to know, I need to be listening now really carefully because this is coming up.
That's basically like an indicator for some important information is coming up, so it's important to follow through the notes and the doctor's voice, the patient's voice as well, so that you follow the flow.
Yeah, and it's important as well to keep your eyes firmly on that question paper. Keep your eyes firmly on the notes, but even more specific on that actual gap, to make sure that you are ready for it when it comes up.
And also don't forget, when we've obviously done some of our practice listening papers, just to obviously understand the flow of OET listening ourselves, some of the gaps can actually come in quick succession of each other. Sometimes it might be a 30-40 second gap, for example, but there may be actually two answers which come within 5 to 10 seconds. So that's why it's essential for you to be listening out for your answers at all times, because you can easily miss one.
Definitely. Don't focus too much on writing down one and switch off.
Yes.
It's very important to try and write it down super fast.
Always listen, but most importantly, listening intelligently and actively.
Definitely.
As well.
And for that specific information that you need in relation to the gaps, everything in between is irrelevant really for this recording. So just make sure that you are focusing on that gap and trying to get the word for that.
So speaking about intelligent listening, it kind of brings us on to our next point as well, and that is when the student is listening to the recording, will everything appear in the notes as will be heard in the recording itself, or will there be any changes?
So in terms of the notes, there can be paraphrasing. Okay, so the doctor might say a particular word in one way, but then it's actually written in a different way in the notes. So you need to be very careful to be able to recognize that paraphrasing as you're going through it.
For example, the doctor may ask the patient, what's your occupation? Or what's your job? And the notes might actually say occupation or job. The other form, the patient may say my job is, even though it comes under an occupation section. So you need to listening out for words which may be synonyms.
Well, that's a very sort of basic example.
I know. It can obviously get a lot more complicated, but you obviously get the idea of this as well, is that things that you see written in the notes overall will not usually be as they are heard in the recording. In recording itself, there will be ideas, they will be paraphrased, they will be reformulated, they may even be synonyms as well.
Yeah, synonyms, similar words, even sometimes just changing the order of how it's been said. So just be careful not to fall for that and end up confusing yourself because you think it's not actually talking about the same thing. But also,
speaking on the topic of confusion as well, I think we need to actually clear up as well that what we just talked about regarding paraphrasing and changing a word does not apply to the answer.
The
answer itself will be precisely the word that you heard in the recording.
Exactly.
So you don't need to change the answer. That will be exactly what you heard. So if you heard the word, put it down. Don't think, how can I possibly change it? Because you can't. But the wording that comes around that answer will be different. More than likely will be different to what you heard.
Exactly. So you don't need to change the word yourself. You can just write down exactly what you heard, but just remember that you need to recognize and be careful to notice paraphrasing. And paraphrasing is all over the OET exam, of course, in this reading section as well. So it's something you really need to be working at. And how do you work at paraphrasing overall? What's the most important thing that you can be doing?
Listen. Write down new words, write down new ideas.
Vocabulary.
Expand upon your vocabulary list in terms of what the word type is, what the word means, the definition of the word, words that mean the same, etc. And understanding how the words can be linked together.
The wider your vocabulary, the more you're going to know like how many different words have a similar meaning to other words, and you're going to be better at recognizing that paraphrasing and not letting it catch you out and distract you.
All right, just to summarize once again, in case anyone's listening or you're thinking, I have no idea what was just being said there. The words themselves, the answers themselves, will not be paraphrased, but the notes around them more than likely will be paraphrased according to the listening.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, so recognize that paraphrasing and just overall listening for specific information. Okay, that's what you're having to do in part A of the listening. It's a gap fill exercise. You're listening for specific details that you're going to have to fill in those notes.
And just following the flow of it as well overall too.
Yeah.
All right, so we come to the very end of the listening section overall.
Part A.
So what do students have to do then whenever they come to the end of the listening section? Do they have time to check their answers?
So then we're going to move on to part B. You have 2 minutes at the end of the whole listening. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
So part A, part B, and part C, you have 2 minutes. But of course, you only get to listen to the recording once. So, this is the kind of thing you need to be writing the words in as you go through, because you're not going to remember, exactly what was said at a certain point. So write the words in as you go through. It's important to note also that spelling is not, you don't have to get it exactly right, the spelling.
Yeah.
But it needs to obviously be recognizable as the same word.
It needs to be a great attempt at trying to spell that word. For example, it might phonetically sound similar. You might have obviously written down a certain word. It might not be spelled correctly, but it phonetically resonates with the actual spelling. They go, examiners will think, okay, well, that's a good attempt. This person obviously knows how to spell. They've used their phonemes. As long as
the attempt at spelling it's a reasonable attempt.
A reasonable
attempt, definitely. But spelling is not penalised in the listening section.
Obviously, trying to spell as well as you can. It's good for many, really reasons.
Yeah, and of course, you can also use abbreviations, but really ones that are general and, very understood by all workplace all professionals, such as BP for blood pressure, but to really avoid using those specific profession specific abbreviations.
Like if you're a doctor, for example, you won't be using any abbreviations that a nurse wouldn't really understand or a physiotherapist understand. The same with a physiotherapist or a nurse or a doctor, etc. as well.
Yes.
General generic abbreviations that everyone would know, that even I would know, for example.
Yeah, I know lots of them. No, obviously with teaching OET and correcting the writing task, now we are a lot more familiar with a lot of the medical abbreviations.
That's important.
Very good. Okay, so what about some more tips then? Have we any final tips that we want to give our students, like overall in relation to listening even?
Well, of course, it's about familiarising yourself obviously with the format of this of the listening test, especially part A as well. So it's important that you do actually do a lot of specific OET practice for this test. Make sure that you obviously are aware about what you have to do, how many questions you have to ask, whether you can paraphrase or not, aka you can't paraphrase, and just following the flow of the script as well. That's very, very important. Get in plenty of mock practice examination mock examination practice overall.
Definitely.
That's
you will
important.
go into the exam feeling a lot more confident that way. Mock exams for every section of the OET exam are a great idea.
If you've done
And
plenty,
of
if you've done plenty of practice, then you will know exactly what you have to do on the day. So there'll be no unforeseen surprises.
It's just your
for
listening
example.
then, the
It's just
standard of your listening, and
Yes.
really the level of your vocabulary as well, so that you're actually able to listen and hear and recognize all of those words. So as long on top of your mock exams, it's very important then that you're also doing, listening in your own time to really improve your listening skills. And of course, you can listen to so many things that are available now: podcasts, YouTube videos,
medical journals, interviews, presentations, talks. TED Talks are another good
yeah,
example
medical
as well.
journals that have a recording.
Yes, of
along
course.
with them.
Yeah, like manythings.org is a good one to listen to. There's plenty of recordings in that.
Yeah, definitely. So make sure that you get lots of practice just listening and improving your overall listening skills, and of course listening to a variety of accents.
Oh,
like
very
we said.
important as well,
Yeah.
because you're going to hear a variety of accents. The way certain speakers will speak may throw you off as well. So it's good to be as familiar as possible with a wide variety of accents too. So make sure that you expand and diversify your own listening in your own time to accommodate all these accents. And hopefully don't hear an Irish voice for the first time ever in an OET examination.
I remember the first time I started teaching, and I said to a student, "Okay, do it now," and she was like, "What? Sorry, do it now?" I said, "Oh, do it now." And she said, "Oh, sorry, now I understand you."
Fantastic.
Anyway, but yeah. So listening and practicing to your accents, very important. And don't worry too much if you don't understand every single word in part A. At the end of the day, you don't need to understand every single
You
word.
don't need to follow
It's about
every word as well, as long as you're obviously active. We like to say, active, intelligent listening as well. There's no part about hearing everything as long as you're hearing the right things. That's the most important thing.
the right things.
Otherwise, you
and-
just tire yourself out if you're listening to every word.
And you make sure that you listen for the specific word, and hopefully that's the one that you get, and you get it down. Yeah. So it's not testing your ability to understand every single word uttered at the end of the day. So don't panic too much if you feel like you don't understand it all. So as long as you've made your predictions for part A, you're using the note as a guide, you're recognizing paraphrasing, and you're writing the words down, specific information as you go along.
You hear that important note, you think that's the answer, you complete it, bing bang bong, what? Everything you hear and miss in between is inconsequential. That's important.
Okay, very good. So just keep practicing your listening skills overall, familiarizing yourself with part A, and you should be good to go.
All right, well, that pretty much summarizes it all for listening part A. So let's get some practice in. Hopefully you found some useful information in this podcast. It's all about you taking the steps and the advice that we've given today and applying that in real OET mock exam scenarios too.
Yeah, putting it into practice. Yeah. So stay motivated, guys, and we will see you again very soon.
Thanks a lot for coming today and listening. See you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.